Moving on now to the Arkle, and whilst we all have our fingers firmly crossed for you, Harry, for Simply the Bets, I think this is where it gets really interesting. St Calvados is 11-2, third favourite for the Arkle, and what a kind of 8 weeks it's been for this unbelievable horse.
Yeah, quite unbelievable for all of us as well. Like, connected with the horse and Andrew and Kate Brooks and all of Andrew's team. You know, it's been, you know, a roller coaster of excitement, and yeah, we're, you know, touching wood, crossing fingers and everything else. He seems in great form at home, so, you know, we're looking forward to it.
I was pretty annoyed. I saw after the Kingmaker quotes of 8-1 around, and when I checked the next morning, they were all gone, and it's now basically 5s across the board, which is a blow because I missed the boat.
Is he still a big price at that? I don't know.
I think personally that on bare form, he's, you know,
he is just a 5-year-old at the end of the day, isn't he? But a very talented one at that. But anyway, you know, we'll see. But
we'll ask these guys, maybe without their rose-tinted glasses, to assess whether or not he's still a bet at 11-2. What do you reckon, Mike?
I think he's probably overpriced at 11-2 without trying to say that he's necessarily the one to beat. I mean, I don't think there's an awful lot between the top three in the market. I mean, it's probably more where I'm coming from. He was electric at Warwick. I mean, the time that was so much better furlong to furlong than any other horse on the card that day. I think he was 15.2 seconds and nothing else on the card was going less than 16. I mean, it stacks up very well. There was a very good handicap on the card that day, albeit over slightly further. This is still furlong for furlong. I mean, Footpad sets a very good standard. He does. It's very hard to knock him. He was very impressive last time out, and Petit Mouchoir's sure to improve from that. Whether he can turn around the form is, you know, that's another question to itself. How ready was he?
He's certainly talented enough to turn it around, isn't it? It's whether or not he jumps, you know. But he is a very, you know, obviously he was always beat Footpad in his hurdle races, didn't he? And you know,
it looks a superb Arkle. To be fair, I think 6-8 weeks ago it looked like Footpad was a bit of a banker, and now I know personally
we could do with an easier Arkle, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could. Why do we want it to be easy?
Pick the hardest one.
Andy, how do you reckon that, you know, the form of St Calvados and Footpad stack up against each other?
They're very difficult to assess in total comparison. Obviously, I've got my time figures to give me some kind of guide. Footpad by quite considerable margin is the quickest Irish 2-mile novice, which is stating the flaming obvious. It's quite interesting, really, looking at the dynamics of the horse. And now they've changed Petit Mouchoir and Footpad, and Sky Royale for that matter. They all ran in last year's champion hurdle, and there wasn't a great deal between them. Footpad was obviously usually a hold-up performer that liked to come through off the pace. Actually ran him over 3 miles, didn't they, towards the back end of the year at Punchestown. And yet, since he's gone over fences, he's blazed a trail. He likes to get on with it. That seems to be his run style. But that's also Petit Mouchoir's run style. That's when he's at his best. And Footpad got Petit Mouchoir out of his comfort zone at Leopardstown. I was there that day, and they went a right gallop past me in front of the stands. And that's when Petit Mouchoir's mistakes began to creep in. People have come to the conclusion, Petit Mouchoir had he's bound to be better for the run, blah, blah, blah. That was his first run for a while. But I'd just be concerned with Petit Mouchoir, with not only Footpad in the race, but obviously Harry St Calvados, who really like to rip, whether he's got the jumping technique to sort of keep himself in the piece. And he's not the kind of horse I don't think he's going to go and, you know, find 4 or 5 lengths if he's made mistakes when these guys are like keeping galloping. So out of the front 3 in the market, I'd be least keen on Petit Mouchoir. Without knowing riding tactics and who's going to do what, that first half mile is how the blueprint of the race is going to work out. It's all right sitting here and say, well, this horse is better than him, he's 4 lengths better than him. But whoever jumps those first 3 or 4 fences, gets into a good rhythm and gets the confidence up. If you make a mistake in those first 3 or 4 fences, they're going to go hell for leather, I presume, because St Calvados doesn't hold any prison. He doesn't want to die not knowing. Footpad, obviously, we know he likes to make the running. Petit Mouchoir he's a free-going type. Anything could happen in those.
Sounds to me like it's set up for something off the pace.
Well, this is it. The way I'm looking at it here, if I was going to have a bet in the race, I haven't had a bet at the moment, but I do think Sky Royale is the kind of horse that will just creep in behind the speed. He likes a fast pace. His Henry VIII time was very fast.
His jumping's good enough, isn't it?
He's very
held
slick
up and kind of, you know, just tip away doing his own thing and then come there, you know.
He reminds me of very promising, back in the day, David Nicholson's horse. He's not overly big, he's not scopy, he doesn't look like a chaser, but he's a much better chaser than he was a hurdler, because he gets over his fences really slick. So he's the one who has got no pressure on the first half of the race. Yeah. I don't know who's going to ride him, because I presume Darryl Jacob will ride footpad.
I'd say Ruby ride footpad.
Possibly Ruby, I mean,
what's a bit up in the air, is it?
I think Darryl's stable jockey to the English horses, so he'll ride Go Royale, and Ruby will probably ride.
Is that right?
That could be a marriage made in heaven, couldn't it? A nice, sit, patient, great judge of tactics, Ruby. He'll have licence just to basically do what he wants. 3 or 4 lengths off the speed, creep. We know he handles Cheltenham as well, that's another thing. I know he got beat by Northfield Harvey, who's 4 for 4 on the track, and he's a complete no-hoper. So if you, like I say, it's all about. I couldn't back any of the front 3 in the market because, with any great degree of confidence, because I just don't know who's going to lead and how they're going to go. But I know that Go Royale is not going to get involved, and from an each-way perspective, it's hard to see him if he gets a clear run, not at least jumping into that front 3 because of how the race will pan out. They're not all going to stay there, are they? No. There's going to be cracks in either Harry's horse or
fingers crossed they're on.
Fingers crossed they're on, but something's got to give. They can't all run flat out for 2 miles without making any mistakes and without 1 or 2 dropping out. It's just an impossibility.
Well, one thing I would say about St Calvados, and it might be different against those 3 horses because obviously they were, 3rd, 4th, and 6th in a champion hurdle last year. But the one thing about him is that because my next door neighbour's been quoted as saying Harry's horse goes 1,000,000 miles an hour, but it doesn't actually go 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's actually just hacking. He has that sort of extraordinary, cruising speed. Natural speed, whereby he's sort of in 3rd gear rather than at the end of the day, he hasn't been flat out yet, but those sort of types of horses probably will take him on, and he will have to go quicker than what he has been going, potentially.
There's an interesting market that Betfair have got of without footpad, looking at those kind of other horses around there. Petit Mouchoir 15-8, St Calvados 11-4, Sorayal 100-30. Maybe one for your gritty each-way multis there as well.
Well, basically you've got 4 places there, haven't you? So, if some firms go 7-2, 100-30 on the day, quarter the odds, it's almost like a free bet, isn't it? Unless he hits the floor. You almost need the MPH on the front 3 in the market, don't you? How fast can footpad St Calvados run in the first half mile of a race? Obviously we can do sectionals, we can work out, he's done 20 seconds between that fence and that fence, but we just haven't got the kind of raw data to know who's the quickest in the first part.
And Nick, if you were, if you're lining up here and they're going to be going absolutely tearing away, would you be looking just to kind of sit and be patient?
You got every horse is individual, and you got to ride to your strengths. But I was going to ask Harry a question. St Calvados, Newbury, Warwick, all flat tracks. Will he be right going up?
Yeah, I think personally I'd be more worried about ground and undulations. Aidan, thinks that he'll be better on better ground, and so does Cosy, who rides him every day. But as the person who trains him, I can't see it because he's sans descent. They're generally soft ground horses. Well, they are, and he, has that knee action, and he goes through it very well. I'm more hopeful if it comes up soft, than it's, say, good to soft, for sure. So I'd be more worried about ground, but undulations, that's a fair question, and
they're going to be trapping down that hill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, listen. I might be wrong, but I'm less worried about it because, he has a lot of class, for one, and he is, to ride him. Not that I'm ever allowed to ride him, but I've ridden him once. He is just, one of those horses just so well balanced. He's just, he's so light on his feet, and he's just for a big horse, he's just. Extremely well balanced, and I think he'll be fine.
I think if I don't step in, we're going to just turn into the St Calvados podcast. So I think we better move on now because we've got a lot of races to get through.